Well, welcome home, King family. We're so happy that you're able to join us this week to come and to share with us on Home, where faith and family meets. My name is Father Tim Donovan. I'm the parochial vicar at St. Bonaventure Parish in Huntington Beach, and this is Pam Hurwitz, my co-host. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. And I want to kind of say to families out there, happy fall. Is it officially fall?
I think next week is. Yeah,
is it?
Probably
okay.
By the time they listen to this, it'll be fall.
Okay. So I've already started. I got pumpkins going, and I've seen kids jumping in cars, soccer practices, baseball practices, back to school. So I know families that you're kind of getting back into your fall routine, and I hope this little time together gives you a chance to kind of step back a little bit and reflect so you can jump back in.
Amen. We've known the King family for a long time, even before it was the King family.
Yes.
Yeah. How many years now? How many years
I met Pam when I was 14 years old, and I'm 36 now, so 22 years ago.
Yeah.
We
Wow.
I met you when you were a 14-year-old teenager walking into youth ministry.
That's right.
So.
We were just saying before we started recording today that not in 1,000 years did we think that we would all be in one room talking about this again.
God is at work. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
God is a wild God and making all these connections for us again. And how awesome it is to have a beautiful family and all these different vocations that we live out and serving the church. It is crazy most of the time, but always a beautiful thing when we can stop back and reflect. So I'd like to invite you to introduce yourselves, tell us your name, and maybe like what is your favorite thing to do, or maybe even your favorite thing about fall would be cool too.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Ryder, why don't you start?
Well, I'll start then as the father of the family. My name is Zach, and about fall, I guess the only thing I'm really excited for is football.
Football, it is back, isn't it? Officially back like a couple weeks ago.
But college football is back, but unfortunately our college football team is not back. So apparently they're going to show up next fall. But I'll leave that for another story.
Okay, yeah. I hear that.
I'm Kirsten, and my favorite thing about fall is probably decorating my house, and fall decorations are so special to me. I love the color, I love the sentiment, I love the idea of just creating a space for new beginnings and allowing all the dead leaves to fall away and new life to happen. It's just a very powerful season for me, and it's literally my favorite.
Great, I said football, you said that.
It's all good. We're being honest.
Yeah, you watch football too, it's okay.
My name is Zoe, and my favorite thing about fall is playing soccer.
How old are you, Zoe?
5.
Nice.
5.
My name is Ryder. I'm 7 years old, and my favorite thing about fall is playing with going to school with.
That was one of Mommy's favorite things too, is you guys going back to school.
And
Let's be
learning
real.
new things every day.
Awesome.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, your turn. Say your name.
I like Kennedy.
How old are you, Kennedy?
I Kennedy 1 and 2 9.
Wait, how old are you? How many years?
2.
2. Okay.
I am 1 and outdoors of 30 pace.
Okay, and do you love Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Aw, Kennedy, welcome.
I have to ask you guys one thing. Do you know what oh, I gave it away. What holiday is during
I
fall?
don't think they caught it. So.
Halloween.
What is it?
I didn't.
Halloween. And do you guys know what you're going to be at?
Yes.
What is it?
So we sit down.
Huh?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. And how about you, Ryder?
Dash from the Incredibles.
Oh,
And
Dash
what are
from
you
the
He looks
Incredibles.
like
Incredibles.
him, literally. So
Okay,
He
nice.
does look like him.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah,
turned up
that's
like
right. What are you
that.
going to be for Halloween, Kennedy?
How about you, Kennedy? What are you going to be for Halloween?
Can you hurry up? Moana?
Oh, Moana.
Ah.
She
Nice.
sings all the songs. She's our performer.
I normally like to dress up like a pumpkin for Halloween. It fits my shape, and I can just put it on, and it works good. Last year, I put on my cassock last year, and I went over to I was saying something or other. I was trying to teach him about All Saints Day, because that's happened the day afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. The eve of All Saints Day is where Halloween came from, huh?
And okay, let me ask you guys, what are some things you like to do as a family together? What are some things you like to do as a family?
Ryder, do you want to answer
I
that?
want to answer. What do we like to do this
Zoe,
summer?
go ahead. Yeah.
Sit back.
Go on trips. Okay.
Like to travel together.
Travel.
Where did we go last summer? What was your favorite spot?
Maui.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
Beautiful.
I like
Okay, fast.
what's it? What do you call it?
Anyways, we like to travel. We're a big traveling family. We've traveled all around the world with them to World Youth Days. We've gone to World Youth Days. Ryder's been blessed by a couple popes, by Pope Benedict and Pope Francis.
Dang.
And Zoe's been ever since they've been 5 months old. Every single time I've gone to World Youth Day, I've had a baby. So we're big in traveling the world and getting to them to experience the universal church and see all the good that God
Other
has created.
cultures and
Yeah.
that there's a lot of different world out there than what we're exposed to just here in our own little bubble. So.
Absolutely. And what a cool thing to be able to see that at such a young age, too.
Totally.
Like, I didn't even know the church was bigger than my parish until I was a teenager in high school. And we were able to go to Steubenville Conference, 5,000 other kids here.
Yeah.
And then you went to, World Youth to Australia. We went together
Yeah.
and like seeing what was 500,000 or something close to that in that big old field.
And it was like
And
3 or 4 million in Poland. I mean, it was just nuts. So,
So
we
crazy.
feel very blessed, but traveling is a big value of our family. We really care about that and taking our kids all with us, even though sometimes that sounds crazy.
It is crazy.
It's not necessarily enjoyable. That's not the right word to describe. It's not peaceful. But it's experiential and it's very memorable.
nice. And worth it.
Yeah.
And you remember those
richer
trips?
for the experience.
Do you guys remember those
Yeah,
trips?
we're poorer for the experience.
You do?
Richer in experience.
Yes, poorer in the bank account.
I just got back from Ireland and I saw the Pope there. It was for the World Meeting of Families. Yeah. So I was able to see him and I prayed for all of our families while I was there. And yeah, it was an awesome experience. I like traveling as well. I normally am like super excited for it before I leave. And then like I'm on the plane for 12 hours or whatever. And then I'm like, why did I get myself into this?
Try with 3 children.
No, thanks.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Celibacy is my children are there. So. Well, talking about challenging situations,
Okay, there you go.
Good segue.
This gospel for this next weekend is challenging. Every once in a while, Jesus in the gospel will throw a very challenging thing at us. Sometimes in our hearts, sometimes unreconcilable. Like, how do I deal with what Jesus just said? Is he figurative about it? Is he literal about it? And how all of these different things. So it says this. Jesus tells us this crazy thing in the gospel for this coming weekend. He says, "Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him for that a great millstone be put around his neck and he be thrown into the sea." Whoa. He continues on. "If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off." And he says, "If your foot causes you to sin, cut it off." He says, "It's better that we enter the kingdom of God missing a member than to not at all." And that's a hard thing to hear, huh? Kind of a crazy thing to hear sometimes,
You want
huh?
to cut your arm off?
No.
My hand or my foot, how many a bunch of handless and footless folks around us. But I think Jesus sometimes says these difficult things to wake us up to the reality that being a Christian means making difficult decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
And as a family and as parents, I'm sure you have to make difficult decisions all the time as families. And how do you guys deal with that?
So one of the things that really resonated with me with this gospel was this actually a conversation that Ryder and I had a couple weeks ago when we were talking after school, and all of his friends, his friends are wonderful kids. The parents are great parents, so please take this with a grain of salt. But a conversation we had was about him wanting to start playing Fortnite, and he's in second grade now, so he's 7 years old, and one big thing about this year especially is we're talking about how he's preparing for his first communion and how being in mass and all these things that are these conversations that are really happening now that are relevant for his age. And he was really sweet and really honest and just said, "Mom, I really want to do this. Like, all my friends are doing this." And I just said, I am a lot more aware of what it is because I work with teenagers and who are addicted and obsessed. And it just is part of the culture, and I get it. But I had said to Ryder, I said, I'm not quite comfortable yet. You're not formed enough yet for me to trust that that's not going to imprint on you and who you are. And you're not a mature adult who knows right from wrong and who has a formed conscience and is regularly reflective. And you're just not there yet. And as your mom, even though, right, Ryder, didn't I tell you this?
No.
Yes, I did. Do not even call me out like that. Boy, I literally said, I'm not, well, I didn't explain to you about examination of conscience. You're right, because you understand that yet. But I just said, I'm not comfortable yet with what it is and what the goal of that video game is. I'm not okay yet because I'm responsible. And I think the beginning part of the gospel is what hit me. The little ones. And it talks about little ones,
It does say that.
Right?
Yeah.
It specifically says the little ones. It doesn't say, oh, cut off your arm if you lead some 28-year-old to sin. No, it doesn't say that, but it's saying, be careful, be aware of your decisions you make when it comes to little ones. So Zach and myself talked about this and said, we need to really stay firm in this, even though it's unpopular, even though it's not going to be something that Ryder wants to hear. I just think we had to kind of stay, stay firm in saying we're not going to expose you to violence like that. We're not going to expose you to strategy like that on, ganging up on other people. That's like bullying behavior. And I'm not saying that people that do this become, violent people, but I want to do everything I can as a parent. We want to do everything we can as parents to, in a culture that's saturated so much by death, we want to infuse life in every chance we can get, and we have to fight fire with something greater than fire, and so I think that has been part of the conversation is these little ones that we've been trusted to. We have to over-evaluate every decision we make when it comes to things like that. So that's the first thing that resonated with me was I don't mind being unpopular. I don't mind not being liked. I would rather my child not be confused by, going to mass on Sunday morning, preaching about integrity of life and dignity of life, and then going to lunch as a family, and then going home and spending his afternoon, playing that game.
And I think sometimes we worry somehow that our kids aren't going to be able to accept a no, or we're not going to be liked, or they're going to miss out on something at school because of this. But you found that Ryder was able to move on, and he's still.
He's surviving.
He's surviving.
Ryder, you still alive?
Getting by without that.
Was it hard though? Was it hard to accept what Mom said to you? No?
Speak, Red is recording you.
No, it wasn't.
Do all your friends play it?
No.
Do a lot of your friends play it?
No.
Oh my gosh, you are seriously.
The stories change once it gets put on the spot.
Okay, because the truth is, you told me all your friends play it and you wanted to play it, right? Thank you.
Verbally say yes, because no one can hear you nod your head.
So when your mom told you no, what did you kind of did you just think, okay, that's it, I just won't do it now?
No.
Yeah.
No, he said, why not, Mom?
Okay.
I would challenge you.
Ryder, you said, why not, Mom? And I said, because I've been entrusted with you. Here I am cooking dinner. I think I was wiping a butt, cooking dinner, sweeping the floor, cleaning up. It's just it's this multitasking central, right? That's true. Okay, let's be honest, it's not pretty 99% of the time. And here he enters into this deep conversation. Zach's up in his office working, and Ryder's like, I want you to download this app. And I said, okay, what app? And I went over to him, and that's when I saw it. And I said, and it was Fortnite. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm not okay with that. And he goes, that's what Dad said. I'm like, then why are you asking me, kid? If Dad said no, right? But it created a platform to
no
talk
person
about
to
it.
begin with, and they figured if they're going to you, you're going to get a yes. However, we draw the line somewhere.
It's got to be really hard too, because there's so much coming at you all the time. With 3 kids and making all these decisions and being like, oh, whatever. But just to be so diligent and staying on top of that. And I can't even imagine as a parent either today, because it comes so fast. And oftentimes our kids know more than we do about the things.
Oh, yeah.
And we have to research into it. What even is that thing or this app? It could seem very innocuous, and all of a sudden it's this thing that has drawn them into some really crazy things. And it's a huge challenge for families today.
Well, here's the thing too: is they try to make it free too. So it's damn, it doesn't cost anything. Everyone's doing it. And it's cheap, and it's free. It's not gonna, and you're like, well, let me look into what's going on here. You try to stay ahead of the curve, but
imagine though. The temptation fast. Like that. I think to parents too. Oh, it'll kind of distract you for a couple hours. Sure. I could totally see that.
Interestingly enough, and I think this conversation prepared me. A couple weeks before, I was at a new parent social at their school, and I was representing Catholic Identity Ministry, and I was talking to other parents, and they had said that all their kids were up until 11 o'clock at night, and they play on their headphones, and they were all battling each other, and I was like, gosh, that just doesn't sound like something I want him to be a part of. And I feel like that conversation or listening to their experience of these kids who were his peers gave me a little bit of heads up on how serious it is, and I don't know. I just think that there are some things that are really temporary and some things that are long lasting. And I would much rather our children invest their time in things that are going to be breathing life into them and reverbing with them in the values we're trying to instill in them. And so I think that that's kind of the filter the lens we look at things through is this something that's going to help him understand the virtues we want to develop in him? Like the sports he's playing, if it's not bringing out the best in him, I don't care if he's good at it, he's not going to play it. Same thing. Like, I don't care, because if it's not bringing out the best in us, if it's not making us to be better people and better children and better disciples, then it's not something we want to be investing our time in as a family for any one of them. That's kind of our
hard going against the grain too. I mean, it's like you're at a Catholic school and a lot of the parents are letting their kids do the same thing. You're like, are we on the same team here sometimes?
Totally.
And like you look around, like and it's a challenge because, I can't even imagine the challenges there.
And I like that idea too, that sanctified, means set apart, and there is a piece of us as parents too that, just like you were saying, I mean, it's so easy. It's always going to be easier to kind of go with the flow or whatever. But we're called to look through, I call them the Jesus glasses, but look through this different lens and just ask ourselves, like, even in these simple things, like, what would Jesus do? And I think too, as parents, like when we have those moments like you did, Kirsten, like just that gut, and I feel like my gut is my Holy Spirit.
Yeah, me too, 100%.
And just when it just feels like, oh, that conversation, it didn't feel right. Like I just know that, and to listen to that as parents, to really listen to that. So.
And not fear it either. Like I couldn't care, honestly, like even though I respect and love all my friends, and I just don't, I don't, at the end of the day, my family is my family. And like, this is what's been entrusted to me, and I don't know. I've never had a problem with, and I don't know where it comes from, probably just grace and the Holy Spirit, but like I've never had a problem saying, like, I really don't care what anyone else is doing. Like, what I care about is my children, and I care about, who they're going to be. And like, I have like a zero tolerance for anything else. Like, I don't know. I feel like life is short and we have such little time to imprint what we really care about on their life. And I think that these formation years in the very beginning are critical for us. That's like, and that's something you talked about is after 14, after 13, I mean, we really can't control what they do. We can't control what they think. We can't control who they hang out with. But in these short years that we have them, I feel like the investment is worth the energy, because that is going to be kind of all we're building inside of them.
Kirsten was just telling us earlier, before, when we were just kind of visiting, about Zoe, about her. What do you do? What's that little thing that you do? You go to the park and you pick something and give it to your mom. What is that?
What do you always pick for me?
Flowers.
And you pick. And why do you pick those flowers for your mom?
Because I love her and she's super special to me.
Because I love her and she's super special to me. Okay, you can't write it this good, folks. Okay.
So what story did I tell you a long time ago that made you start picking me flowers?
When my grandma, her mom was sick, she always used to walk down like a mile away. And she used her money to pick some flowers for her mom. And then she just went back up and gave it to her mom, and her mom felt a little bit better because she was so sweet.
So you started picking me flowers after I told you the story about Grandma, and it's never stopped. She picks me flowers
and I
all
think
the time.
that's just so much of how it happens. Whatever we're talking about, whatever they're hearing, that pretty soon they're either watching that or becoming that. So.
Totally.
Snack break. Sorry, guys. Kids are hungry. This is real life, and they're
Seaweed
eating
snack break.
dried seaweed that I did not buy. So disgusting. Okay.
And we got Korean baby Jesus over there.
Yeah,
This is
Korean
perfect.
baby
This is
Jesus,
like-
dried seaweed from my mother-in-law,
This is
and
real
this
as
is
it
real
gets.
life. Okay.
You know what I love too about the readings from this weekend is that this gospel, I don't think balanced, but it kind of shows us where the Lord is leading us to as well. The responsorial psalm says that the precepts of the Lord give joy to the heart. The precepts of the the Lord give joy to the heart. Like the Lord wants to lead us to a place of joy and freedom and peace. And I think sometimes when we go just follow the ways of the world and of those around us, we can see that the world is being led into an increasingly less peaceful place, less joyful place, those kind of things. And to see your family and the joy you guys have with each other is a fruit of that, I think.
Absolutely.
Is making those intentional decisions.
First of all, I apologize for the crunchy snacks they're eating right now with sensitive microphones. This is like very unprofessional, ladies.
Father Tim just decided to start eating
No,
some
that's
seaweed.
enough.
This is the risk, and I love it.
But here's the reality: is precepts is a really good word because precept means like a rule. So people don't always know that. So like the precepts of the church are what you're supposed to do in a year or what you're supposed to. So that's a word that's not commonly used. And writers like flossing over in front of the food, okay? But the cool thing is that I've always looked at even the 10 Commandments, and this is a different way of approaching it. I've always looked at it as like, do you want to live a good life? Then do these things. Do you want to have peace? Do you want to have joy in your life? Like, do these things. Yeah, offer Father Tim some seaweed, right? That's the least you could do. Oh, that's so gross. Okay. Anyways, long story short is that like we think of rules as being binding. Like I have always approached, and Zach and I have talked about this a lot. I've always seen these rules that God has given us as freeing. Like I feel like it's something that is very liberating. It helps us to have freedom from making those hard decisions such as this, saying, you know what, like I'm okay with being a rebel in this society. I'm okay with being countercultural against what everybody is saying is right or wrong or okay or permissive, because these precepts of the Lord that he's given us, it says in this, in our responsorial psalm, it's like joy will come from them, not suffering, not pain, right? It's joy that is the fruit of living a life that God intends for you, and yet it takes courage, right? It takes being bold. It takes sometimes being unliked or, right? Sacrifice. Like it takes things that are almost a virtuous, right? To be able to stay. Okay, that is seriously enough, you guys. That's your last one.
Seaweed eating going on right here.
But that's hard, but it's worth it. And like, if I could say anything to parents, I would say, you know what? Like, it is not easy. It is not easy even getting up on Sundays when your kid's throwing up the night before or wakes you up at 3 a.m. and still getting to Mass on Sundays. Like, it's not easy, but you know what? It's worth it. Hey guys, what do we do every Sunday? Go to Mass, right? It's like it's Sunday, we go to Mass, right? We go to Mass, we thank Jesus, we give him our time, right?
Even if we're on vacation.
Even if we're on vacation. Thank you. Gosh, thank you.
Good job.
We didn't
I want to be on
Isn't
the
it even
radio.
cool? Like, isn't it cool even when you go to like Hawaii?
We
and
did.
They have
Oh,
a
yeah.
Catholic
Wait,
church in
Ryder,
Hawaii.
tell them what happened when we went to church in Hawaii. What happened when we went to church this last summer? Tell what happened.
Okay, he didn't remember them.
Oh my
However,
gosh.
we ran into some friends, these two little twin girls that were in his preschool class.
Oh, really?
We're at the back, as usual, in Mass, and you're in a community you're not familiar with, you keep to the back with your kids. However, these two little girls walk by, and I look at them, I'm like, I know I recognize, here we are in Maui, like, ways away from home. But I told Kirsten, I'm like, is that, like, so-and-so from back home? And sure enough, it was. Of course, they hadn't seen each other in many years now. They didn't remember each other, but obviously the mom was from San Antonio and stuff as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just so cool when you're so far away from home and you make that a point.
And they're
that
at
even
Mass.
if you're on vacation. Sorry, the kids are now kissing. Yeah.
Seaweed is just
not
love each
helping
other so
anybody.
Like, it
much.
doesn't matter. Like, it's still
Yeah.
part of our identity as a family. We seek out, and it also was a great platform and an opportunity to talk to them about how our church is everywhere. The Catholic Church is universal. It's all around the world. Every country we go to, every state we go to, every city we go to, that we have this opportunity to still celebrate the same Mass. Hey, that's for family.
No,
This
I
is
love
family.
that.
This is real life.
I think what's beautiful about it is,
Okay, that's not right.
I think really the gift of family is like togetherness.
Totally.
Is like that we do it together.
Yeah.
And this is part of it too, right? Is kind of this coming and reflecting together and being that. How
always
does
gonna be
reflection
great.
look in your house? Do you guys ever talk about how do you break down the pieces of the Gospels and things in your home? We always love to ask families this because a lot of times it's not happening in a lot of our homes or
Yeah.
our families, and we try to give people that kind of model that. What are some of the challenges of that, or also maybe some of the success stories you've had?
So the first thing I would say, sorry, Zach, if you have something you want to say.
No, go ahead.
Okay, the first thing I would say is you have to be intentional about it. It never just happens organically. There's never a time that I just go, wow, this is a moment moment of peace. Now would be a great time to reflect on scripture with my children. Usually it's like, look at this is what's happening. One person's screaming, one person's throwing a tantrum, one person's spilled their water. Like, so, okay, that's enough, please, writers. Like right now, right? This is life, okay? But the cool thing is that we took a situation, okay? There was a situation where we would drive literally half a mile, not even half a mile to school every day from our home. Hey, Kennedy, can you listen to my story? And you can listen, I'm going to tell you something, okay?
Oh, my
So every single day we would drive to school, and Ryder would get very stressed out because he always felt like he was going to be late. And first of all, he had never been tardy ever, but somehow he has this real anxiety about being late. And one day we're driving to school, and I said, you know what? Like, we need to replace this with something positive. And so every single day, what did we start doing, Zoe?
The Hail Mary and all fathers.
No, what is it called? Praying a what? Decade?
Of the rosary.
We prayed a decade of the rosary every day. So in our, again, half mile to quarter mile drive, depending on a red light, you know how long it takes, and then the line to get up the hill, we start with an Our Father. We rotate praying Hail Marys around anybody who's in the car. And our kids now know not only how to pray a rosary, because they literally even know the Fatima prayer, glory be everything. We invoke saints, and we end with an angel of God prayer. Okay, Kennedy. So even Kennedy participates in her wild state of,
Lord Jesus, forgive us our sins, save us the fires of hell. Lead all souls to heaven, specials to most in thy mercy.
In most need of thy mercy. But like,
Fatima prayer,
so what happened
beautiful.
though was we took a situation that was very... always stressful. And I was like, gosh, I'm dropping off my kids at school and I'm yelling at them as they're walking out of the car. Okay, as they're getting out of the car. And that's not how I want to start my day. So instead of like lamenting on that and continuing to have that happen, I said, how can we make this something better? And so we just started doing that. And now it's like, you don't even turn on the music. We don't even do anything. We just immediately start with our prayer. Huh, Dee Dee, do we say our prayers in the morning on the way to school? Yes? We say our prayers? Okay, so that's one example. So now when you're talking about other traditions that are maybe not so daily is, well, why don't you tell them about the tradition with my family that we did after, so you can talk a little bit and give me a break.
Wait, you don't have to talk.
That's true.
No, so Kirsten's dad had a little bit of a health scare like 4 or 5 months ago, maybe a
Easter,
little bit
right
longer.
before Easter.
And it really caught Kirsten off guard. Can you please move? And since then, everything was fine and checked out and stuff. But it was just one of those moments where it's like kind of stops you in your tracks. So like,
If you guys could see us now, by the way.
put things into
See what's
perspective
happening right now.
as just like saying yes to important things versus always just trying to do everything and be everywhere.
Yeah.
That now, and we've intentionally made a point every month with two of her sisters, or only 2 sisters, and their families, and getting together and spending that quality
With my
time, with her dad and stuff like that, once a month at each one of our houses and stuff like that, and that all the cousins get to spend that time since they're going to be the ones growing up together as well, and building that kind of friendship and bond between cousins and stuff, which is obviously key. Is an important aspect for family and stuff like that.
So you guys get together how often?
Every month, once a month on Sundays, we make it a priority. So that's the thing is, I think that the issue was we were saying yes to so many things, and Kennedy, we were saying yes to so many things, and they weren't things that necessarily mattered, And when we look back at the end of the day, as soon as we had this health scare with my dad, and I lost my mom when I was 14 years old, so it's not like I didn't understand how fast life can change, but you do get desensitized to that. And so one of the traditions that maybe isn't necessarily faith-based, because it's not, but it's like being intentional about what time we share and what time we spend with the people who mean the most to us, because in that moment where I thought maybe my dad could pass away that fast, the only thing that mattered was me wanting that storytelling time with him, me wanting to know more about him, me wanting him to spend time and bond with my kids more often. And he lives literally a mile down the street from us, But that was a really cool opportunity for us to kind of reevaluate, wow, we could go to 7 birthday parties in one weekend, across the 3 kids in our own lives, or we could say no to all that and have quality time with their grandpa and cousins. And that just became a choice that we made, saying, you know what, we're going to look back and we don't want to regret that, and that's, so another tradition, even if it wasn't faith-based, is really creating conversation. And ironically, ironically, in this time together, not only has it drastically improved my relationship and our relationships with our adult family members, which can become at times tenuous, right?
Yes.
Okay. But it's created faith conversations within us about our children, like about baptizing our nieces and nephews and different things that wouldn't have happened just over Christmas Eve dinner or over we're in real relationship now with them, and it's special, and we just feel really, really good about that. And so I would encourage any family that's listening that needs that kind of push over the edge to start saying no to things so you can say yes to something greater. And that's kind of it. Like the seashell talk that we were raised on about how like you have to let go of all these little seashells to pick up the star, you know? And I think that we are starting to really learn how to let go of all the seashells that are all good, but we let them go for something great, and we want that greatness, you know. And that's, you have to pursue that. It's not just going to be given to you. It's not going to be offered to you. It's not going to be expected of you. Like, you have to be willing to kind of say no to good, so you could say yes to great, just like Jesus did, you know.
And
Prioritizing.
I was talking to another family. It's funny because they were telling me they had a family motto, and their family motto, and she goes, literally, she has adult kids, and she said, you could ask any of my kids and they would know it in a second. And their last name is Winthizer, okay?
Oh, okay.
And they said, Winthizer's, their motto is, we can't do everything. And so that is a regular part of, you know, when something comes up, they'll kind of, you know, we can't do everything. And that means, and now we need to kind of look at these things and decide, you know, which sometimes we just do. And I was really struck by that, you know, and what a great thing to teach your kids early on, you know, because especially in Orange County in the lives, you know, we have to make choices and decisions. And I really feel like one of the holiest things we have as people and as families is time.
Yeah.
And how we spend that, you know, it really says a lot about who we are, how we parent, what we appreciate. And so I liked that a lot. You know, we can't do everything.
Our family motto right now is survive.
Surviving.
Minute by minute.
It's the little Nemo that just keeps swimming.
Right? We are surviving. Let's be real.
Just
There's no room
just keep
to,
swimming.
you know.
I survived.
Because the second we stop swimming, we
I
sink.
survived the pinching of the Kennedy.
Yep, you survived our sister's pinching.
No, at least if you have a motto, I think that like coming up with that and kind of deciding. One of our mottos is forgive quickly. Like, we're a very fast forgiving family. We have there's no time to waste, and so we came up with this thing with the kids, and we didn't actually come up with it. We stole it from a
TV
Netflix
show.
But yeah, we don't want to talk about that. It's actually not the most. I'm not proud of that, but it is really cool. So the second the kids come and are fighting, and they come to me, what do we say?
Sorry, I love you. Hug it out.
What is it? Slow it.
Sorry, I love you. Hug it out.
Hug it out?
Yeah, they're
What do
to
you
say
say- what do you start
sorry,
with?
I love you, and give each other a big hug.
And sometimes Ryder
it
just
out.
goes.
Yeah, he gives
And
weak
sometimes I like give Ryder kisses, and he's like,
Yeah, he doesn't like
Yeah,
that.
I know. He's a boy. That's what happens.
So
Okay.
one of the people who works here told me one time that this is how their mom got them to stop fighting when they were kids, they were mad at each other. She would put them in one T-shirt with each other and make them hug each other until they were not
Genius.
mad at each other anymore.
Do you know how many T-shirts I have, you guys? That could work
That's
for
a
that.
really good idea.
That's a really good
They
idea.
made them
And if
hug
they're
each
not-
other until they weren't mad at each other anymore.
And if they're
They're
Or
laughing
they
about
beat
it.
each
good, I'm
other up.
getting in
They
that
survived
T-shirt
it.
too. Then they'll be really like
So I
forced
just
to
thought
like
that was
each
such an
other.
interesting
That's
way to do it, because
so
we
scary.
can't experience love with each other and still be mad at each other. And I think that that's
Yeah.
like the hug it out, like forgive, like I love you, like reminder of what's a higher importance. Like, of course we did something that maybe broke the relationship or hurt each other, but there's that higher good, the love that is more than what.
Another thing I make them do, which is it can never fail. It's no fail. Is I make them sing. If they're fighting, they have to sing it out. You can never be mad at somebody that's singing to you.
Yeah, once you start singing.
It's honestly, it's like the greatest joy lifter, and then it gets us all into our regular dance parties. We're a big music family. And again, music too. Music is like one of those things where anytime we're in the car, I mean, these kids know every single song on the Fish. They know they sing. Like what I'm infusing, what we are both choosing to infuse into them, it's consistent. So it might not be one thing that sticks, but if 10 little things can stick, maybe that will build the one thing we need. You know, it's not gonna. I don't think it's going to mass on Sunday. I don't think it's only saying a prayer around the dinner table. I don't think it's only listening to Christian music. It's not any one thing. I think it's that consistency be across the board that's going to develop, virtuous children. But the truth is I think that first and foremost, it comes from having a virtuous marriage and virtuous examples. And, I place a lot of stress on myself and on Zach, like, to be that example of, okay, like, mommy and daddy argued about something, but guess what? Like, we both immediately said we're sorry. We maybe just kiss it out, not hug it out, but like...
or sing to each other, and that looks really weird. But.
Okay? But the point is
Life's
like,
a musical.
We have to be that example. If we want to expect our kids to be caring about relationship and about life, we need to care about relationship and about life. And, I'm not doing things and saying things that are inconsistent with what I'm asking of my children, so...
And in closing,
yeah, we're at like 2 hours now. I feel like we've been talking forever.
I wanted to say it's just something that reminded me of just kind of what I'm looking at here on the couch. Okay, with a family who have 3 siblings, and I was talking to my brother as I drove here today, and
Which
I was
one?
My brother Chris, my youngest brother, and I was saying to him, I said, I'm doing a talk this weekend to couples, and I said, if you could go back and tell couples who had kids, some advice, what would you say? And he said, one of the pieces of advice he said was, I would just tell them how important it is for the siblings to love each other and make up and forgive, and to never ever let that bond go bad, And I was just thinking about that because I just had this 80th birthday party for my dad this past weekend with my 3 brothers, and just standing there with them and just thinking, like, I'm so glad. In my family, we forget, it was the same kind of thing. Nothing is ever going to break our family up. And I don't know how many times my mom has said that to me as I'm about ready to write one of my brothers off. And but standing there together as that unit and knowing that we're going to have each other forever was very powerful. So you guys, your relationship with each other is super, super important.
Do you agree, Zoe?
Siblings.
Do you love your brother and sister?
Yes.
Well, you're the one I know. Yes.
They're going to hug it out right now.
Kennedy, do you love Zoe and Ryder? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ryder, what about you? Oh my gosh.
They're hugging it out.
They're hugging it out, stealing passies.
Can we close together with praying the Our Father together?
Love that.
Yes.
You guys, can we pray the Our Father
We just
together
got
like you do in the car?
I'm just excited about that. Okay. So
Because
do one of you guys want to lead us?
There's a very special line in the Our Father, on earth as it is in heaven, huh? You guys are creating that. You're living that out as a family, huh?
Jesus made it look a lot easier.
You're preparing to have each other for eternity, which I think is really cool to think about when we're saying that. So can we pray that together? You want to lead us?
In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Father,
Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.